Почитувани го следите неделното интервју на Радио Слободна Европа. Разговараме со амбасадорката на Соединетите американски држави Анџела Агелер. Madam Agелер, the new Macedonian government is already a week in the office. What should Macedonian citizens expect? What should be the priorities of the government?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me begin by thanking you for being here. It's great to see you, and I'm really happy to have this opportunity to talk with you, and especially because, as you know, next week is the 4th of July. It's America's Independence Day, our birthday. And this is a perfect time for us to be talking about elections that just took place and the new government. Because, you know, as we all understand, democracy is a very fragile thing. And we have seen this country come through a period of campaigning and elections that was challenging for the people and the candidates in this country. The results, however, were very definitive. And we feel very strongly that it was free and fair elections, regardless of what party any particular citizen was supporting. And so seeing that process, that democratic process move forward is a positive for the people of this country. They said very clearly to their leadership that they wanted to see change. The incoming government, the new government, has made it very, very clear during their campaign period what they believe those necessary changes were. And so now it is the responsibility, I think, of every citizen in this country and for all of us to now take them at their word and match actions with the statements that were made during a campaign. They talked about addressing corruption. They talked about growing the economy. They talked about energy and infrastructure, the importance of education and healthcare for the citizens of this country. And what we will be watching closely, as I know all of you will, is how those promises translate into actions and results for the citizens of North Macedonia.
But in the focus these days are use of the constitutional name North Macedonia by the new government. The Prime Minister Mickoski and all the ministers of his cabinet use it during the swearing-in ceremony.
Right.
But Mickoski was clear, saying that he will use it only in official communication and not within the country. Does this comply with the PRESPA agreement?
Well, let me be very clear. The PRESPA agreement was absolutely historic for this country. I recognize that it was extraordinarily difficult for many people in this country to accept the change of name, but it was an international agreement that the government at the time and many others within the international community agreed to. We were certainly a part of that process, and we applauded. This is something that helped North Macedonia now move forward, certainly right into NATO, and has also provided many opportunities for it to make progress towards the European Union. We were very pleased to see that the new Prime Minister and his ministers said North during their swearing in. That's critically important and a fundamental part of the agreement. And we are watching very closely now to see how that is respected. But as I have said before, and as we have said, that within respect for the PRESPA agreement, which is critical, there is certain leeway. And the priority for us here in Skopje at the US Embassy and for Washington is to now move forward on many of those very important priorities that this country should be talking about. I feel that there is a certain amount of distraction and scorekeeping in terms of who says what when, and the important part is respect international agreements, which the Prime Minister has said he will, and then let's move on and have these critically important conversations. For example, in Washington, D.C. next month, in just a couple of weeks, he and several of his key ministers will go to the NATO summit for the 75th anniversary of NATO. North Macedonia is a wonderful, strong ally in NATO. And we want the conversation in Washington to be about Ukraine, to be about the expansion and development and strengthening of this NATO alliance that we have that is so critical to peace in Europe. And that's what the conversation should be about.
But what will mean in a context of NATO if North Macedonia is considered that is not respecting the international agreements like PRESPA agreement, agreement with Bulgaria?
Well, as we've discussed in the past, let's not use hypotheticals. Let's stick to what the Prime Minister and his ministers have done thus far. They used North Macedonia in their swearing in. He has not yet made his first international trip, which will indeed be to Washington. Let's watch his actions and his words here. And then let's also judge not only on respect for PRESPA, but movement forward on so many of these other issues, including with his neighbors, including with Greece, including with Bulgaria. Since PRESPA, it's important to recognize how remarkably supportive the Greeks have been for this country and the kind of support that they have offered as important neighbors. And of course, this is not a relationship that one wants to see damaged in any way. So hopefully there are conversations that are happening on both sides so that this country can continue to make progress on those priorities that we talked about earlier.
But reactions from Greece continue, and also from Bulgaria. The Bulgarian officials just stated that they are against new negotiations with North Macedonia after the Prime Minister Mickoski expressed his readiness to negotiate again, but also declared that he would never vote for the constitutional changes. Do the U.S. encourage a new dialogue between Bulgaria and Macedonia?
Those agreements have been made. There's not a renegotiation of PRESPA. There's not a renegotiation of movement towards the European Union. That's very clear. And there is a differentiation, as we certainly know in my country, between what is said in campaigns, what was said years ago, and then now what is actually said moving forward. And our hope very much is that progress is made, that those old sort of usages or terminology can be set aside, and that neighbors, regardless of which party, beginning with North Macedonia, can have those important conversations that will benefit everyone involved. And that's what we hope to see.
American President Biden extended the executive order of the state of emergency for the Balkans for another year. The situation in the region is fragile. What impact does it have to the situation on North Macedonia?
Currently, that executive order covers all of the Western Balkans, and so it doesn't have a significant change on our programs, on our conversations, on our diplomatic interaction here. It's just a recognition that this is a complicated part of the world and that it takes paying attention to, which is certainly what we do here from the embassy and we'll continue to do.
The new government has confirmed its support for Ukraine. But at the same time, it has a vice prime minister, Stoichkov, who is very close to Moscow. Is there a concern about it?
I have said in the past, I don't know him. I don't know the new deputy prime minister. And I don't know the extent to which his position, which has been changed from the previous holder of that position, will change. But I can tell you that I have begun meeting formally with the new government. Yesterday, I met with the Prime Minister and I met with the Defense Minister and had excellent conversations with both of them, including on Ukraine, and feel very comfortable in the assurances that they both gave me on their continued support for Ukraine through NATO and their very strong commitment to maintaining the critical 2% of GDP that this country has, that many other NATO allies have not yet achieved. And so I am very confident that when they go to Washington, D.C. in the next couple of weeks, that they will I know they will reiterate it to our leadership in Washington, and I also know very much that this country's role within NATO is appreciated, and their support for Ukraine is also incredibly important to us. You know that this country was 4th per capita in its donations to assistance to Ukraine. That is a remarkable thing for a country this small when other far larger countries were not beginning to come close to that. So that is something that we appreciate, that we value, we as the United States, and that NATO does and has expressed and will continue to do so.
Let's go to maybe the biggest problem in this country, corruption, as an epidemic, as you've said. The new government has declared that they will fight the corruption. Mm-hmm. The first thing we saw was the project for clean energy and windmills. But as I noticed, it lacked details and transparency. Mm-hmm. And this has been ongoing issue for years. So how they will fight corruption, but they're not transparent?
Well, I'm not in, I was there at the announcement, and this country, North Macedonia, desperately needs different options for energy. It needs clean energy options. What that deal looks like, I don't know, as you say. This government also has been in power, this is their 4th day, if I recall correctly. And my understanding is that this is an ongoing discussion with this company for several years. And so that transparency is something that they have assured the citizens of this country is forthcoming. I don't believe that it has been finalized yet, so to ask them for the details, I believe is a bit premature at this point. But you're absolutely right. They have made the commitment to address corruption head on. And we very much hope to see what frame that takes, what activities that involves, because this is, as you say, this is an enormous priority for us. It is an enormous challenge for this country. It is an epidemic, and I believe it's a cancer within this country that must be addressed. The United States and this embassy will continue to work as hard as we can to support any program that will address that. And it starts from the local municipality level all the way to the highest levels of government, and we will be there to support whatever programs go after the corruption in a meaningful way.
Is there a risk of potential influx of corrosive capital? The opposition already said that, and they're suspicious about the billion euro credit from Hungary, I suppose, with a very low interest, which is expected. So is there a risk?
Well, there's always a risk, and that's frankly the role of journalism. Of having journalists look into that and ask for transparency, and it's the role of citizens to demand that transparency. We want to understand where this funding is coming from. It's not enough to demand that your government address corruption. Citizens have to be a part of that as well in asking for answers. And so I don't have the answer. Again, the government has said, and publicly, and has assured us privately here at the embassy, that they will be open about these sorts of issues. And so we take them at their word and look forward to those conversations and understanding more about these things.
There has been no investigations or actions against Macedonian citizens on the US sections list. Even the mayor of Struga, Ramis Merko, one of them, almost got permission to open a faculty of medicine without any conditions fulfilled. Mm-hmm. Are you disappointed?
You know, we are required by law as U.S. embassies around the world when we have evidence of corruption, it goes back to Washington, it's carefully reviewed, and when we are sure that the evidence is absolutely watertight, that those sanctions are then announced. And this happens in other countries as well, and yes, it is disappointing that there are many instances in which the United States will designate someone, and the country, country of which that person is a national, does not do so. We are not law enforcement officials here in this country. We do not constitute the judiciary. So those actions are up to officials here. They're up to investigators. They're up to law enforcement officials. They're up to the judiciary. And, you know, there is plenty of evidence available here in this country, because every time the United States has designated somebody, everyone I've spoken to, and I'm sure this is true for you, has said, no surprise. Of course, we all knew it. And so it isn't a surprise that these individuals are corrupt. The question is, what are institutions here going to do about it? And we'll wait and see.
Also, we are all waiting for judicial reforms. Is the dissolution of the judicial council one of the options announced? Is it the right move for to reform the judiciary?
I know that the restructuring of the Judicial Council is something that the EU has, it was included in the EU report, and it is something that we have certainly discussed. In all candor, I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea. I think the effort to remove politicization of filling these councils is very important. But how that actually happens is something that we, like you, are waiting to see. What is the actual proposal for refilling that position? And I think what is helpful is that there is a roadmap included with the EU report. There are very solid suggestions of that those who came from the EU to look at the Judicial Council and other institutions within the judiciary made recommendations for how to do that would stay within EU standards. And so there is a roadmap. Now we look forward to seeing the plan and how that is implemented. But the bottom line is, do we need to, does this country, do all of us, to the benefit of the judicial system here, need to remove politics from the judiciary? And the answer is a very resounding yes. So let's see how that happens.
Thank you for the interview, Ms. Agelер, and happy 4th of July.
Thank you so much, Sonia.
Почитувани, тоа беше интервјуто со американската амбасадорка во Скопје, Анџела Агелер. Благодарам на вниманието и до гледање.